In this lesson, we will rig the creature's secondary arms. Let's bring the model back. Alright, so it looks like we have a bit of a challenge ahead of us. We have all of these arms to rig, but honestly, it won't take much time. We can go ahead and create one chain and use that for the others. We can then mirror all of those across. And another thing to think about is what vertebrae bone should each arm be linked to. So as we start to move the spine, these smaller arms will follow naturally. But again, it won't be anything major at all, nothing we can't handle. Let's go ahead and move over to our side view. We'll grab our bone tools. Alright, from there, let's go ahead and choose Create Bones. Let's go ahead and just create one object. If you find it difficult to create your chain, remember, you could always go to Tools, head over to Manage Layers, and we can go ahead and hide the envelope layer. That way we don't accidentally attach this chain to a chain we don't want it connected to. Let's go ahead and start to create the system. Alrighty, we'll end by creating our nub. Now from here, what I'd like to do is go ahead and drop the size of this chain just a bit more. Let's say we go ahead and head over to our listener window. I've selected all three bone objects minus the nub. We'll go ahead and now go to the listener window. We can go ahead and run the same script that we've used before. That works out well. Just setting the width and height to 10. From there, we'll go ahead and grab the nub object. Let's go ahead and delete that. Grab the end bone here and choose Create End. Let's move back to our perspective view now. Alright, so it's time to move this in place. Let's go ahead and grab the root. Let's grab our Move tool. Go ahead and move that over. That looks pretty good. I might press F3 to go back to shaded mode just to make sure that this is nicely fit inside of this arm. We might have to just rotate this a bit, so we'll go ahead and use our rotate gizmo to do that, making sure it's set to local mode. Okay, that looks pretty good. I might go ahead and swivel that around in the y-axis to straighten it up a bit. Twist it in the x-axis. Alright, I think that's going to work out pretty well. I might just go ahead and take the root and translate that over a bit more in the x-axis. Again, just being picky here, just want to make sure that this is nice and clean. I think that it's going to be just fine. Alright, so once we have this, let's say we go ahead and grab the entire hierarchy, press Control Page down. We'll now go ahead and press Control V to copy this chain. Let's grab our Move tool. With it still set to world, we'll go ahead and just translate this down and back in the Z and Y plane. Alright, we'll go ahead and just translate it back now in the Y-axis. And let's start to move this over in the X-axis. Alright, once we do that, we'll then want to just grab the root and start to fit this chain inside of this arm. And we'll go ahead and twist this around so you kind of get the idea. It's just a matter of making sure that this is fit nicely inside of the secondary arm. So what I'll do is go ahead and pause the video and take care of the others, because essentially the steps are going to be repetitive at this point. We'll work with bone edit mode if we need to, but only after we have reoriented our root. Really isn't too big of a challenge at all. Just be really careful and make sure that the bone object is centered inside of the arm that it corresponds with. So again, I'll go ahead and pause the video and take care of the placement of the other arms on the left side of our model. Alright, so all of the arms on the left half are finished. Now if you notice as you start to work with bone edit mode that your nub object is a little out of whack, maybe a bit out of its orientation, not quite flowing with its parent, we could always go ahead and remove it and use Create N. But really it's all straightforward. You just want to kind of rotate things in place and use bone edit mode when you need to, just to make sure everything fits nicely. I'll go ahead and press F3 so we can take a look at things in shaded mode. So this is essentially what we end up with. Alright, super cool. Now I haven't renamed any of these just yet. Let's go ahead and hide the model. Let's go ahead and take a look at a naming convention we can use. So these are our auxiliary arms. So we can add that to the name then. And we can start by naming this first arm with an A, and then the next B, C, and so forth. So we'll name these alphabetically. So starting at the root, this is going to be BN underscore L underscore AUX underscore arm, and then following that, that's going to be A underscore A01. So let's go ahead and break down this name because it seems a bit lengthy. So we know that this is going to be skinned. We use the prefix BN. This is on the left half. This is an auxiliary arm, and this is for chain A, and this is the first bone object in that chain, so we can go ahead and use A to label that. So really straightforward. Let's go ahead and copy this. We'll go to the next bone object, paste, and this is going to be AB. So when we get to the next, this will be AC. Let's go ahead and paste that name in, get it renamed. Let's now go ahead and copy this name to rename our nub object. So that will be AC, but instead of BN, it's going to be BE. Alright, so when we get to the next root, let's go ahead and paste our name in. That's going to be BA01. So you get the idea. Let's go ahead and take care of the other objects. I'll go ahead and pause the video and do that on my end. Alrighty, so each has now been renamed. Let's go ahead and work on mirroring these over. So I'll go ahead and grab all of our bone objects here, and then go ahead and find the mirroring tool. Alright, great. So now we can go ahead and choose OK. And we know the next step. We simply go in and grab the root. We can start with our first bone object, making sure it's set to world mode, our move tool. We'll go ahead and find the x-axis. Let's go ahead and copy that value. We'll now go to the root on the opposite side. We'll now go ahead and paste that value in, and we're using the reciprocal. And there we have it. We should also make sure that we rename the bone objects on the right side. So let's go ahead and take care of that. And again, I'll pause the video. So once again, each bone object has been renamed, this time on the right side. So let's say we go ahead and do this. We'll go ahead and bring back our skeleton. Let's go ahead and work on linking each root to the bone object it should be connected to. So going to the first set here, on the left and right halves, let's go ahead and select those two roots, grab our link tool. Clearly, we should link to the thorax. So take care of that. Alright, now going to the next set, we'll actually go ahead and grab our four roots here, and we'll have those linked to the back. Now the last two we'll have linked to our root. So let's go ahead and make sure we grab the two on both halves, 4 in total. We'll link to our root. Alright, great. Now grabbing each root, we'll want to go ahead and freeze their transforms. Let's press Control Page down to make sure they're all highlighted. We'll now Alt right click and freeze. Alright, great stuff, really exciting. Since they're all still selected, we might as well add them to the envelope layer now. Let's go ahead and hide that. Everything's looking really nice. If we were to go in and let's say grab the root, the back, and the thorax. If we were to now grab our rotate gizmo and set it to, let's say, gimbal, and start to kind of rotate this to get an idea of how it will all move. Right now I'm rotating from the center. I might switch this to the pivot point. There we go. So take a look at the nice results we get. Super exciting. Well, guess what? It looks like our skeleton is finished. Let's go ahead and bring back our model just to double check and make sure we haven't looked over anything that needed to have a bone object, but everything looks good. I'll go ahead and hide the model again. So now that we're finished with this step, we're basically ready to go ahead and skin our model, and it's a good idea to skin at this point before we add controls and any other nodes like constraints or anything like that, because it would be a lot more challenging to go ahead and fix our bone objects, their placement, if we add those other systems. So instead, we'll just go ahead and make sure that everything looks nice when we skin our model to the skeleton here. And if any bone needs to be repositioned, again, it's just a matter of removing that bone object, adjusting its position, and then reapplying it back to our skin instead of going in and deleting all sorts of things that we should not have to delete at this point. Okay, so let's say we move on to the next lesson and get to skinning our beast.